Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Nishit Kumar, and with me is Prashant Kumar Sinha, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. In this edition, we have exclusive interviews with members of the Indian diaspora from various parts of the world as India celebrates the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. As the world fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with the program with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. The headlines. India kicks off world's largest COVID vaccination drive on 16th of January. Prime Minister Modi reviews preparedness. 23 Indian sailors aboard MV Jug Anand stuck in China set to return home. Indonesian plane carrying 50 people goes missing shortly after takeoff from Jakarta. WTO Lords India growth story says economy is on a strong wicket backed by reforms. Diaspora contribution to a self-reliant India in focus at the 16th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. And in cricket, Australia lead by 197 runs against India with 8 wickets in hand on day 3 of the Sydney Test. The world's largest vaccination drive for COVID-19 will kick off on the 16th of January in India. Country's drug regulator has already granted emergency use authorization for 2 made-in-India vaccines, Covishield and Covaxin, which have established safety and immunogenicity. The vaccination drive has been backed by dry runs and massive public awareness generation. Experience of people's participation in elections and universal immunization program have come in handy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a high-level meeting to review the preparedness of states and UTs for COVID vaccination. The meeting was attended by Cabinet Secretary, Principal Secretary to Prime Minister, Health Secretary and other senior officials. A detailed and comprehensive review of status of the COVID management covering various issues figured at the deliberations. The Prime Minister was apprised about the CoWIN vaccine delivery management system. More than 79 lakh beneficiaries have been already registered on the platform. Our correspondent has filed this report.
The rollout of the vaccine will provide priority to the healthcare workers and the frontline workers who are estimated to be around 3 crores. They will be followed by those above 50 years of age and the under 50 population groups with comorbidities numbering around 27 crore. The training process of vaccinators and vaccine administrators was also detailed out during today's meeting. A total of 2,360 participants were trained during national level training of trainers, which comprised state immunization officers, cold chain officers, IEC officials and development partners. More than 61,000 program managers, 2 lakh vaccinators and 3.7 lakh other vaccination team members have been trained so far as part of trainings at states, districts and block levels. With Anand Kumar, Suparna Saikya, IIR News, Delhi.
Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, has said that India is prepared to assist the entire humanity against the COVID onslaught with not one but 2 made-in-India vaccines. Inaugurating the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas in virtual mode, the Prime Minister reiterated that as the pharmacy of the world, India continues to fulfill the demands for essential medicines around the world. He said India's vaccination program, which would be the world's largest, is being looked up to with eagerness around the world.
आज भारत एक नहीं बल्कि 2 मेड इन इंडिया कोरोना वैक्सीन के साथ मानवता की सुरक्षा के लिए तैयार है। दुनिया की फार्मेसी होने के नाते दुनिया के हर जरूरतमंद तक जरूरी दवाएं पहुंचाने का काम भारत ने पहले भी किया है और आज भी कर रहा है। दुनिया आज सिर्फ भारत की वैक्सीन का इंतजार ही नहीं कर रही, बल्कि दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा वैक्सीनेशन प्रोग्राम भारत कैसे चलाता है, इस पर भी नजरें हैं।
Meanwhile, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has requested India for 2 million doses of Covishield vaccine produced indigenously by the Serum Institute of India, Pune. Mr. Bolsonaro, in a letter to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, said that the Brazilian National Immunization Program against COVID has finalized the Covishield and Covaxin vaccinations. The letter released by the press office of Mr. Bolsonaro requested for expediting the supply of vaccines to Brazil without affecting India's vaccination program. The European Commission has proposed to the EU member states to purchase an additional 200 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine produced by BioNTech and Pfizer. There would also be an option to acquire another 100 million doses. With this, the EU, which has unrolled its COVID vaccination program, can purchase 600 million doses of this vaccine, already being used across the EU.
The World Health Organization (WHO) has urged nations to end to bilateral vaccine deals and to extend more support to the COVAX facility instituted to make vaccines universally accessible. In his press briefing, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus stated that vaccine nationalism is self-defeating.
Now, we're also seeing both high and middle-income countries that are part of COVAX making additional bilateral deals. This potentially bumps up the price for everyone and means high-risk people in the poorest and most marginalized countries don't get the vaccine. And some companies and countries have not submitted critical data, which we need to issue emergency use listings, which blocks the whole system of procurement and delivery. Vaccine nationalism hurts us all and is self-defeating.
Global cooperation in the fight against COVID-19 has gained momentum. Japan has extended an official development assistance loan of an amount of 30 billion Japanese yen to India. This will be used to support India's efforts at providing social assistance to the poor and vulnerable households severely impacted by the pandemic. India has said that the development further consolidates and strengthens the strategic and global partnership between India and Japan.
India and Sri Lanka are discussing ways to further cooperation in a post-COVID scenario. The External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, recently concluded his visit to Sri Lanka. The spokesperson to the External Affairs Ministry, Mr. Anurag Srivastava, told media on Friday that the two countries are discussing the development of special zones for pharmaceutical manufacturing in Sri Lanka. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
3 steps to stay protected and stay safe from COVID-19. Wear face mask, 2 gaz ki duri to maintain social distancing, maintain hand and face hygiene.
India has engaged with the USA over the extension of H1D Visa Restrictions. External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Anurag Srivastava said that India has urged more predictability in the visa regime and minimize inconvenience to Indian nationals in the US as those bona fide Indian travelers to the US.
We are engaged with the US government for increased predictability in the visa regime. There is recognition in the US of the fact that Indian skilled professionals have contributed to the growth of the US economy and helped the US economy retain its competitive edge and innovation advantage.
23 Indian sailors on board the Indian ship Jag Anand, which has been stuck at the Chinese port of Jingtang since June last year, have finally got respite as the ship is all set to sail to Chiba, Japan for a crew change. Given the grave humanitarian situation, Indian ambassador in China, Vikram Misri, had personally taken up this issue with the Chinese Vice Foreign Minister. More from our Beijing correspondent in this report.
In the new year, 23 crew members stuck on Indian ship Jag Anand at Chinese port of Xingtang have finally got good news. After prolonged talks between Indian and Chinese sides, the ship will finally sail to Japan shortly for crew change. After being on board for around a year since it started the voyage from Australia, laden with Australian coal, the crew members will be finally relieved from the ship. It will reach Chiba, Japan around 14th of January and then the crew can fly back to India. The shipping company said that as of now, ship will come back to Chinese port of Xingtang with a new team of crew members boarding the ship in Japan unless there are any fresh instructions from the owners of the cargo. Anshuman Mishra for World News, All India Radio, Beijing.
The other ship, MV Anastasia, with Indian crew, is exploring the possibility of a crew change at its current point of anchorage in Saufedian. Indian Embassy has written to Chinese authorities for approval of the same. The Chinese side said that while crew change is allowed at other ports following certain quarantine conditions, it is not allowed at Jingtang port even with quarantine. They conveyed to Indian Embassy in late November 2020 that crew change from Jingtang port would not be feasible. However, the shipping company may apply for crew rotation from Tanjung Port, and the local authorities would examine after receiving requests for the same. The concerned shipping companies have been asked to make crew change applications expeditiously.
The World Trade Organization, WTO, has said that India's economic growth continued to be strong for most of the period under review. In its 7th review of the Trade Policies and Practices of India report, the WTO stated that India has implemented a number of reforms, including the introduction of the Goods and Services Tax, GST, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, banking, and most recently legislation to improve marketing and reduce regulation of agricultural products. The report lauded economic reforms by India. It stated that India implemented several measures to facilitate trade, such as a reduction in the number of documents required and the automation of the customs clearance system for imports and exports. Microblogging site Twitter has permanently suspended the Twitter account of outgoing U.S. President Donald Trump. Following the suspension, Twitter on Saturday also banned the account of his presidential campaign. Twitter shut down its campaign account shortly after they deleted tweets from the U.S. president from an official government account. President Trump used the account to accuse Twitter of banning free speech and coordinating with the Democrats and radical left to silence him. Meanwhile, Google on Friday suspended the Parler social networking service from its App Store. The app was reportedly favored by many supporters of U.S. President Donald Trump. Google justified the decision, stating that the app was used to upload posts inciting violence and demanding robust content moderation from the app.
In Indonesia, a passenger plane with more than 50 people on board has gone missing shortly after takeoff from the capital, Jakarta, today. A statement released by the budget airline, Sriwijaya Air, said the Boeing 737-500 was on an estimated 90-minute flight from Jakarta to Pontianak, capital of West Kalimantan province on Indonesia's Borneo Island. Indonesian Transport Ministry spokeswoman Adita Irawati said the missing plane is currently under investigation. She said search and rescue efforts are underway. The plane is not a 737 MAX, the Boeing model, involved in 2 major crashes in recent years. The 16th Bharatiya Pravasi Divas convention was held today through virtual mode. Speaking on the occasion, President Ramnath Kovind today said the recent success of Indian scientists and technicians in developing 2 COVID vaccines is a major achievement for the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, which is driven by the spirit of global well-being.
It has been aptly put that the sun never sets on the Indian diaspora. Known as the model minority, diaspora Indians have an impressive presence in the fields of science and technology, especially ICT and medicine, entrepreneurship, trade and commerce, academics, art, literature and sports. Some of you have reached leadership positions in administration and politics. You have spread the soft power of India and made your mark on the global stage. Your continued emotional attachment to India, its culture and traditions makes all of us very proud of you.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his address said that the non-resident Indians or NRIs have made a big contribution in the fight against COVID-19 from where they were staying or from India. He said their contribution to PM Cares is strengthening health services in the country.
Friends, बीता साल हम सभी के लिए बहुत चुनौतियों का साल रहा है, लेकिन इन चुनौतियों के बीच विश्व भर में फैले हमारे इंडियन डायस्पोरा ने जिस तरह कार्य किया है, अपना कर्तव्य निभाया है, वो भारत के लिए भी गर्व की बात है। यही तो हमारी परंपरा है, यही तो इस मिट्टी के संस्कार है। इस जगह से सोशल और पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप के लिए दुनिया भर में भारतीय मूल के साथियों पर भरोसा और मजबूत हो रहा है।
The chief guest of the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas convention, President of Suriname, Chandrika Prasad Santokhi, said Suriname shares deep bond with India and both countries have managed to maintain their heritage, culture and customs.
Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, it is also important to recognize and celebrate that the Suriname Hindustanis have managed to maintain their heritage, their culture and customs. As we say here, their paramparas, Sanskriti and Bhasha. We have a vibrant Hindu and Muslim community. Today, we still speak Bhojpuri, Suriname style, Suriname Hindustani, and we believe we have the best traditional Indian cuisine in the Caribbean. We still teach our youngsters traditional folk dances and folk music like the Baitak Gana. We celebrate Holi Phagwa and we observe important holidays like Diwali, which is a national holiday in Suriname.
External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, said that unprecedented difficulties thrown up by the COVID pandemic has only served to strengthen India's ties with its diaspora.
Let me emphasize that these unprecedented difficulties have only further strengthened our bonds with Pravasis. This was expressed in the Vande Bharat mission that brought more than 3.5 million of our people home. It was equally visible in the support we provided for the return from India of those of other nationalities to 120 countries. And not least, it was seen in the medicines that we sent to 150 nations, many with large Pravasi communities.
The Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is a celebration of the Indian diaspora who have made their constructive presence felt across the world. The occasion commemorates Mahatma Gandhi's return to India from South Africa on the 9th of January 1915. Even to this day, Mahatma Gandhi is considered to be the greatest Pravasi and also the most ideal Pravasi. President Ramnath Kovind echoed this sentiment in his address on the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas event earlier today.
On this very day, in the year 1915, Mahatma Gandhi, the greatest Pravasi Bharatiya, returned to India. The Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is also an occasion to recall Gandhiji's ideals for individual and collective life. Gandhiji's emphasis on Indianness, non-violence, ethics, simplicity and sustainable development remain our guiding principles.
Today's Hotspot segment is dedicated to such model Pravasis who are keeping Gandhiji's spirit alive and are enriching their countries of adoption with the Indian way of life. From Bangladesh, we are joined by Mr. Suyog Vyavahare, Technical Consultant, Sign Cost Automation Technologies Limited, Dhaka.
इसके वजह से बहुत खुशी होती है कि हमें एक रिकॉग्निशन मिला गया है और भारत सरकार इसके लिए हमें बहुत सारी सुविधाएं दे रहे हैं और यही नहीं कि इसका सेलिब्रेशन इंडिया में हो रहा है बट सब एम्बेसीज में हो रहा है। भारत सरकार प्रोएक्टिवली हम लोगों को हेल्प कर रहे हैं।
India's classical dances have attained global recognition for its grace and technical complexity. Indian diaspora have been carriers of these cultural endowments to the outside world. Here is Dr. Lopamudra Bhattacharjee, an Odissi dancer based in Dhaka, sharing her thoughts.
I represent my country through my dance form, Odissi, as because India and Bangladesh share the same culture and dance plays a major role in that.
Talking to AIR from Dubai, Dr. Bharat Bhutani, former president of Indian Business and Professional Council, thanked the government for organizing Pravasi Bharatiya Divas even during the COVID-19 pandemic.
I salute Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his government for upholding the tradition of celebrating the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas even in the challenging times of COVID outbreak. This reflects the importance given to the NRIs by the Prime Minister and his government. Indian diaspora community, which constitutes over a third of the UAE's population, is hailed by the UAE rulers and the government for its contribution to the nation building.
Also joining us, Mr. Sanjeev Chaubey, a medical practitioner based in China. He says that while the year that passed was difficult due to the COVID pandemic, there are rays of hope emerging from India in the form of new vaccines.
2020 हम सभी के लिए बहुत ही अच्छा नहीं रहा। हमारे पास एक नया होप है वैक्सीन का। भारत में भी हम वैक्सीनेशन कर रहे हैं, पूरे वर्ल्ड में वैक्सीनेशन हो रहा है और हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि भारत आने वाले टाइम में और भी देशों को हेल्प करेगा और वैक्सीनेशन जितनी जल्दी हो सके सभी लोग इससे बाहर आए और लोगों का जीवन सामान्य हो जाए।
Ashok Vaid from Nepal says that the day is an opportunity for all the Pravasis to strengthen India-Nepal ties.
प्रवासी दिवस भारतीय संस्कृति से जुड़े विशाल आबादी को जोड़ने का एक मौका तो है ही, साथ साथ नेपाल भारत संबंध पर भी आत्मचिंतन का मौका देती है। इसके मनाने के पीछे आशय यह है कि अप्रवासी भारतीयों की भारत के प्रति सोच, भावना की अभिव्यक्ति, सकारात्मक बातचीत के लिए एक मंच उपलब्ध कराना है।
Gitesh Desai, president of Seva International Houston chapter, told AIR that the diaspora has played an important role in cementing India-US ties.
The diaspora has a natural attraction for India in their hearts because, as Ramayana proclaims, Janani Janmabhumischa Swargadapi Gariyasi. The diaspora serves in developing bilateral relationship between the United States and India and promoting India and her culture in the United States.
As this day is dedicated to all the non-resident Indians or the NRIs, overseas citizens of India, OCIs and people of Indian origin or PIOs, we extend our greetings to the beloved Indians residing in foreign countries. The nation is proud of their achievements and their contributions for the development of the country and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Israel has appointed Mrs. Joyshri Das Verma as the honorary consul in northeast India on Friday. In a statement, the Israeli embassy in India said Mrs. Das will be based in Assam. She will be looking after Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Tripura and Sikkim. The move is aimed at enhancing cooperation in the northeast. It is also expected to bring in Israeli expertise and advanced Israeli technologies to benefit people in the region.
Now on to the one of its kind, Cherry Blossom Festival with an India-Japan connect. In the picturesque northeast Indian state of Manipur, the Cherry Blossom Mao Festival was held today. The event marks the beginning of flowering or the pink season in the district. Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh graced the function virtually due to the pandemic. He shared the wishes of the people to make the Cherry Blossom Festival an international event and invited the delegations from countries like Japan. The Mao area of Senapati district in Manipur is known for cherry blossom, a plant which is popularly known as sakura in Japan. The festival, being held since 2017, saw a scaled-down edition this year due to COVID-19 pandemic. Here is a vignette from the event. Now, let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Washington Post writes that Joe Biden is assembling a multi-trillion-dollar stimulus plan which include unemployment aid. UK-based Daily Mail has reported that a Chinese doctor has called the China's Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine the most unsafe in the world with 73 side effects. Russia-based Sputnik has reported that despite US sanctions, Venezuela and Iran have maintained their close cooperation in the fuel sector. Tehran has been sending ships to the South American nation to bring gasoline supplies. The Sydney Morning Herald has reported that Hong Kong has released detained Democrats but seized their passports and travel documents. Nepal-based Himalayan Times has reported that India will start its COVID-19 vaccination drive from 16th of January with priority given to healthcare and frontline workers. And moving on to sports. In cricket, Australia has taken an overall lead of 197 runs over India in the third test at Sydney. Australia were 103 for 2 at stumps on the third day today. Earlier, India, which resumed its first innings from the overnight score of 96, for 2 were dismissed for 244. Patrick Cummins took 4 wickets. In another development, the Indian team management has lodged a complaint about racial abuse faced by Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Siraj from the crowd. The incident took place at the Sydney cricket ground during the 3rd test match between India and Australia. And in football, Liverpool defeated Aston Villa 4-1 to reach the 4th round of FA Cup. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu today sent his greetings on the occasion of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. In a tweet, Mr. Naidu said, "Our NRIs carry the fragrance of this ancient land to faraway places and with their hard work enhance India's reputation overseas." The Vice President said they bring new ideas, good practices and investments, thus contributing significantly to India's growth in multiple ways. He expressed hopes that they will prosper in all their endeavors. And now, before we end, a quick look at the headlines once again. India kicks off the world's largest COVID vaccination drive on the 16th of January. Prime Minister Modi reviews preparedness. 23 Indian sailors aboard MV Jug Anand stuck in China set to return home. Indonesian plane carrying 50 people goes missing shortly after takeoff from Jakarta. WTO lauds India's growth story, says economy is on a strong wicket backed by reforms. Diaspora contribution to a self-reliant India in focus at the 16th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. And in cricket, Australia lead by 197 runs against India with 8 wickets in hand on day 3 of the Sydney Test at SCG. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan Vaishnavajan by various artists. And with that, we end this bulletin. See you at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.